The big, shiny chandelier sparkled high above the grand lakeshore ballroom. It looked like a giant upside-down crystal tree, and light bounced off it in tiny rainbows. My sister Vespera stood at the long head table at the front of the room. She held up a thin glass filled with bubbly drink. Her beautiful white gown shimmered every time she moved, like it was made of stars. Around 200 well-dressed guests from Chicago sat at round tables covered in white cloth. They leaned forward in their chairs, waiting. They were ready to hear Vespera's maid of honor speech. But it wasn't just any speech. It was about me, her older sister, Octavia. In their eyes, I was the one who never quite got things right. I smoothed my simple navy blue dress. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't covered in sparkles. It came from a regular store, not a designer. I tried not to look at the relatives who thought they were being sneaky when they stared at me. Aunt Cordelia leaned toward Uncle Percival and whispered behind her menu. Uncle Percival nodded slowly like he agreed with whatever she said. Vespera's old college roommate gave me a look that was half smile and half pity. I knew that look. It meant, poor Octavia. She tried, but she just isn't like Vespera. They were all expecting something. For weeks, Vespera had told everyone her speech would be real and honest. I knew what that meant. It meant she would talk about my mistakes. It meant she would smile sweetly while reminding everyone how she chose the right path and I didn't. If only they knew the truth. I quietly glanced at my phone under the table. 8:47 p.m. I watched the time carefully. The big announcement was set for 9 o'clock sharp. That was when the news would become public. I only had 13 more minutes to sit here and play the role everyone had given me. The dreamer who never quite made it. Before I talk about my incredible husband, Dominic, Vespera began, her voice smooth and clear, I want to say a few words about the person who taught me resilience. My sister, Octavia. Here it comes, I thought. I lifted my glass and took a small sip of champagne. I bought it myself. I didn't like that everyone assumed I couldn't afford nice things. Dominic Ashbourne sat beside Vespera. He looked perfect, tall, confident, and polished. He came from old money. He went to the best schools. He worked at a powerful company. He was everything my parents had always dreamed about for us. Everything they quietly believed I would never become. My sister Octavia is here tonight, Vespera said, turning to smile brightly at me. And I've learned so much from watching her journey. Every head in the ballroom turned toward me. I gave a polite smile and nodded. Octavia's path hasn't exactly been straight, Vespera continued. She's tried teaching, marketing, even opening a bakery once. A few guests chuckled softly. Aunt Cordelia nodded as if this proved something important. She's always chasing something new, Vespera said. Right now she's freelancing in tech. It's more of a passion project than a business, right? She lives in a sweet little walk-up near Wicker Park. Still driving her old Civic. Still dreaming big. Some guests tilted their heads in sympathy. Uncle Percival sighed loudly, like my life made him tired. I glanced at my phone again. 8:59 p.m. One more minute. What they didn't know was that my freelancing in tech wasn't small at all. I was the secret founder of a cybersecurity company called Lynx Vault. I had built it quietly over 5 years. No one in my family knew. I had kept my name hidden on purpose. And at exactly 9 p.m., the news would break everywhere. My company had just been sold for billions of dollars. They didn't know my little walk-up was actually the top penthouse of a 47-floor building. And I owned the whole building. They didn't know I owned 2 other properties, too. They didn't know my old Honda Civic was only for everyday driving, so I wouldn't attract attention. My real cars were stored safely somewhere else. They didn't know that every failed job I tried had been part of a smart plan to learn and build connections. But do you know what I've learned from Octavia? Vespera continued. Her voice changed. It wasn't soft anymore. It was sharp. I've learned what not to do. I've learned the importance of stability, of being realistic, of not chasing wild dreams that don't work out. The crowd laughed lightly. Octavia, Vespera said, lifting her glass higher, I hope tonight shows you what real success looks like. A partnership built on shared values and practicality. I hope you stop chasing fantasies and start living in reality. More laughter. Glasses rose into the air. I lifted mine too. My smile was steady. And then, something happened that Vespera had not planned. The giant screens around the ballroom, which had been showing sweet wedding photos, suddenly flickered. The music paused. The pictures disappeared. The hotel had a live news system connected to the screens. When breaking news happened, it sometimes switched automatically. A news anchor's voice filled the room. We interrupt with breaking news. A Chicago woman has become the youngest billionaire in state history. Vespera froze. Her glass stopped in midair. 200 guests slowly turned their heads toward the screens. A photo appeared. It was my professional photo, the one taken for a business magazine interview that had been scheduled in secret. Octavia Halomir, age 30, has been identified as the anonymous founder and CEO of Link's Vault, the reporter said clearly. The cybersecurity firm has just been acquired in a multi-billion-dollar deal. Sources say Halomir will personally earn over $3 billion. She maintained anonymity for years, operating under a private entity while living modestly to avoid media attention. The room became completely silent. You could hear the hum of the air conditioner. Someone dropped a fork. It clinked loudly on a plate. I calmly took another sip of my drink. Link's Vault revolutionized cybersecurity for high-frequency trading and financial systems, the anchor continued. Its technology is currently used by multiple global firms, including Ashbourne and Rowe. That was Dominic's company. I watched his face change. His confident expression slowly disappeared. He realized the most important system at his firm had been created by the woman he believed was a failure. The broadcast ended. The wedding slideshow returned. But no one looked at it anymore. Every single person in the room was staring at me. I stood up slowly and smoothed my simple navy dress. A few minutes ago it looked plain. Now it looked strong and powerful. Well, I said calmly, I guess the cat's out of the bag. Vespera's mouth opened slightly. Octavia, how long have you been doing this? 5 years, I replied. Since the Christmas when you told me to stop embarrassing the family with my coding hobby. I turned to face the room. I want to thank my sister for her thoughtful speech, I said evenly. She's right. I have learned a lot. I paused. I've learned how to stay quiet while building something important. I've learned that people measure worth by what they see on the outside. And I've learned that sometimes the best response is simply winning. Dominic looked shaken. If I said anything that upset you, he began nervously. You didn't say anything tonight, I interrupted gently. But last month at the country club, you joked that Vespera was lucky to have at least one successful sibling. His face went pale. He hadn't known I was sitting 2 tables away that day, meeting with an investor. I glanced at my phone again. Messages kept coming in. Interview requests. Investment offers. Invitations to speak at major conferences. Not bad for a Friday night. The deal finalizes Monday, I said. I'll remain CEO. And yes, I have another venture launching soon. My phone buzzed again. A message from my assistant. The magazine cover story was confirmed. I picked up my small, simple clutch bag. I should perseverably go, I said lightly. Early meeting tomorrow. Something about a cover story. I stepped closer to Vespera and kissed her cheek. Congratulations on your wedding, I whispered softly so only she could hear. I hope Dominic realizes he just married into a billionaire family. I paused slightly. Technically through me. Then I turned and walked toward the ballroom doors. The silence followed me. 200 people who had spent the evening whispering and judging were now watching me with wide eyes. Just before I reached the door, I stopped and turned back one last time. Oh, and Vespera, I called out gently. She looked up at me, stunned. That little walk-up you mentioned? I smiled. I own the entire building. All 47 floors. Think of it as a wedding gift. I let the words settle in the quiet room. Something to remember the next time you talk about realistic dreams. Then I opened the door and stepped out, leaving behind the sparkling chandelier, the shocked guests, and the sister who had finally learned that sometimes the quiet dreamer is the one building the biggest future of all. The next morning, I sat in my real office on the 45th floor of Meridian Tower. The windows were tall and wide, and I could see the whole city below me. Cars looked like tiny toys moving on thin gray lines. The buildings looked smaller from up here, like blocks in a box. I was holding a warm cup of dark coffee. It was the same kind I had always liked. Years ago, people used to think it was the only kind I could afford. They thought I was poor and struggling. They thought I was barely getting by. They did not know the truth. My phone would not stop buzzing. It buzzed again and again on my desk. Family members were calling. Old friends were sending messages. Classmates I had not talked to in years were suddenly asking how I was doing. Even former bosses who once doubted me were now saying they were proud of me. Now that the news was out, everyone wanted to talk to me. I ignored most of the messages. I did not feel like answering them. But one message made me stop and read it twice. It said, I saw the news. Remember when you wondered if anyone would ever believe in your big, impossible ideas? I think you finally got your answer. I'm so proud of you, Dr. Lucien. I smiled softly. Before I could reply, there was a knock on my office door. "Come in," I said. Isolde, my assistant, stepped inside. She looked excited. "Ms. Hallamere, there's Vespera Ashbourne here to see you," she said. "She says she's your sister." I looked at my watch. It was 10:30 in the morning. Right on time. "Send her in," I said calmly. A moment later, Vespera walked into my office. She looked perfect, as always. Her beige designer coat was smooth and neat. Her hair was styled carefully. Her smile was small and polite, like she had practiced it in front of a mirror. "Eva," she said in a smooth voice, "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." I pointed to the chair across from my desk. This was the same desk where I had built the company that everyone once thought was just a silly dream. "I'm just looking at some business papers," I said. "What can I do for you?" Vespera sat down carefully. She held her expensive handbag close to her body, like it was a shield. "I wanted to apologize about last night," she said. "My speech at the wedding was supposed to be motivational. I didn't mean to hurt you." I watched her face closely. I wanted to see if she really meant what she was saying. "Motivational?" I asked quietly. "Yes," she said. "I thought if I showed you what a stable and traditional life looks like, it might inspire you to choose a safer path." Even after all the news stories and headlines about my success, she still believed she had been teaching me something. "Vespera," I said gently, "how much do you think Dominic makes at Ashbourne Row?" She straightened her back. "He's one of their top partners. He made almost $500,000 last year." I turned to my computer and tapped a few keys. "Ashbourne Row has paid Link's Vault $847 million in licensing and service fees over the past 3 years, I said. "Your husband's entire firm depends on technology that I created." Her smile started to shake. Her eyes widened just a little. "And your wedding last night?" I continued. "Dominic told everyone it was his special gift to you. But the florist, the venue, and the catering company are all businesses I own. I just used different company names." Vespera blinked quickly. She looked confused and shocked. "So when you stood up and tried to teach me about real success," I said softly, "you were using my money without even knowing it." "Eva, I didn't know," she whispered. "How could I have known?" "You couldn't," I said, standing up and walking toward the window. "Because you never asked. Not once in 5 years did you ask what I was working on. You saw my old car and small apartment and decided I must be failing." I turned around and looked at her. "But that's not what hurt the most," I said. "What hurt was that you used your wedding day, a day that should have been full of love and happiness, to make fun of your own sister." She was very quiet. The room felt still. After a long moment, her voice cracked. "I was jealous," she said. I stared at her in surprise. "Jealous? Of what?" "Of you," she said. "Of your freedom. Of your courage. I followed every rule. I went to the right school. I chose a safe career. I married someone successful. I did everything people expected me to do. But you walked away from all of that and built something amazing." For the first time that morning, she did not sound perfect. She sounded real. "I watched you for years," Vespera said softly. "I thought you were struggling. I told myself my life was better because it was safer. But I was wrong." I walked back to my desk and sat down. Behind her flawless makeup and expensive clothes, I could see something honest in her eyes. "You're not wrong that stability has value," I said gently. "Planning and being careful are important. But you were wrong to think that success only has one shape." My phone buzzed again. I looked down. It was a message from my aerospace development team. They wanted to schedule Monday's strategy meeting. "I'm building something new now," I said. "It's called quantum aerospace. We're creating factories that can work in space without gravity. These factories will use advanced AI to build things in orbit. One day, we'll create systems for deep space technology." Vespera blinked. "Factories in space?" I gave her a small but real smile. "Would you like to hear more?" She nodded. For the next hour, I explained everything in simple steps. I told her how Link's Vault's AI would power the machines. I described how small pieces could be launched into space and put together like building blocks. I talked about how this could change space travel and exploration forever. She listened carefully. She asked smart questions about money, supply chains, and government rules. She did not interrupt. She did not laugh. She simply listened. Finally, she took a deep breath. "You know," she said, "I have connections. Through Dominic, I know defense contractors and aerospace investors. I know people who work near NASA. If you're serious about this, I'd like to help." I raised my eyebrow. "You want to help me?" She nodded. "If you'll let me. I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to be the sister who believes in you, not the one who doubts you. I thought carefully. Forgiving someone is not easy. Trusting them in business is even harder. There might be a place for you at Quantum Aerospace, I said slowly. But not because we're sisters. Because I believe you could add real value. You could help with partnerships, business development, and building relationships. Her face brightened. You mean it? I do, I said. But if you work for me, you follow my rules. You meet my deadlines. You respect my decisions. There will be no special treatment because we're family. She nodded firmly. Understood. And one more thing, I added. Next time you give a speech about success and failure, make sure you truly understand the difference. She laughed. This time it was not a polite laugh. It was real. Deal, she said. When she left my office, I sat quietly for a moment. Just 24 hours ago, I was the forgotten sister. The one people whispered about. The one they thought had wasted her life. Today, I was offering my sister a job at my new company. Life can change very quickly. My phone rang again. This is Forbes magazine, a warm voice said. Mrs. Hallamir, congratulations on your incredible success. Our readers are fascinated by your story. How did you build a billion-dollar company in secret while your own family thought you were struggling? I leaned back in my chair and looked out at the shining skyline. It's simple, I said. Success is not about proving yourself to other people. It's about building something that matters, even when no one else understands it. And what's next for Octavia Hallamir? The interviewer asked. I smiled, thinking about space factories and new possibilities. The sky is not the limit anymore, I said. It's just the beginning. That Monday, the new Forbes cover was released. The headline read, "The Billionaire Next Door. How Octavia Hallamir Built an AI Empire in Plain Sight." The article told the story of my 5-year journey from the so-called family disappointment to a tech leader. But the most important moment was not in the magazine. Later that afternoon, I received a text message. First day at Quantum Aerospace tomorrow. Thank you for the second chance. Let's build something impossible together. Vespera. I stared at the message for a long time. Sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. Sometimes it is giving someone a chance to grow and change. If you have ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told your dreams were too big, then you understand my story. I did not build Link's Vault or start Quantum Aerospace to prove anything to my family. I did it because I believed in something that did not exist yet. And I will never wait for someone else's permission to build my dreams.